We have sound. All right, I'll close the door actually. If you feel the AC turn off, just let me know.
Oh yeah,
I'll go turn it back on.
Gucci.
All right, so welcome to the podcast, Chilling with Iceberg, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Robert Anthony Duran. Everybody calls me Bobby. My rap name was Bob D's back in the day. I've come a long way, man. I'm 43 years old. Definitely had my share of trials and tribulations growing up. A little hard upbringing in the ghetto, but it's not where you start; it's where you finish. And I think my trajectory is going pretty good right now. As far as where I came from, single parent house, latchkey kid, always did my own thing. Played basketball with all the bigger kids all the time. But I always got exposed to like more adult environments and atmospheres as a kid growing up. So I really grew up early, kind of had to in a way.
Yeah, matured early.
Yeah. So I always look at things from a different perspective than a lot of people, I think, because like just the way I see things from my perspective and my point of view. But I'm a very humble person, very appreciative and helpful towards people that I look up to. And, even with the haters, dude, like you can't win them all. You know what I mean? So I just do me. I just focus on what I can do and how I can attribute to better people and helping out anywhere I can. That's really who I am.
Um, Talk a little bit about the rap. You said you used to rap.
Yeah, so my whole childhood was all about like hip hop. Like I'd say my sophomore year in high school, I'd see people always like rapping on the lunch breaks and just battling each other, like rap battle. So for me, it was pretty easy transition to your mama jokes to rap battling. And I always was in the back of the bus, on the football team, and all we do was talk shit. It was just a way of life. Like the way in our culture that you show appreciation is like your Theo roasting you at
Yeah,
the
busting
freaking
your balls.
barbecue, So I knew at an early age I had to come with it, So I was always quick with it, always come back. So the rap battle just kind of like sunk right in, and it was crazy when I moved to Chico,
Mm-hmm.
Chico up north. It was right after the 8 Mile came out. So there's none but like white dudes out there that thought they could rap. It was fucking hilarious. And me just being like analytical and very much a lyricist and always writing. Dude, the way I got into writing, I gotta say, was fucking poetry.
All
Low
right.
key. In like junior high, the first time I wrote a poem, and it was for my homie. He paid me $5 to write a poem for his girl. And I always thought like I could be like a singer, like an R&B singer, because I loved R&B when I was a kid. So I'd write all these baby songs and stuff like that. And as a kid, that's just what I did. I don't know why, but it was just the way I gravitated to. It was just writing. I was very a creative writer. Like I sucked at grammar, but I could write the shit out of some fucking stories. It didn't make sense with the words that I used sometimes. But yeah, man, I started writing poems, and then like my homies liked that shit, and they're like, "Hey, write something for my girl." So then it was like a little side business, just writing poetry for them to get chicks. And then from there, it just started turning to my metamorphosing into like battle rap, and then just rapping in general. And all my homies had studios or were DJs, and it was like I'd go to house parties. And on the east side, like once they know you have a skill or a talent, they want you to go do it at the party. So I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna come by and be the MC. You got a DJ," and they're like, "Oh, can you do like a birthday song?" I was like, "I'll do a birthday rap." So I would do like the 50 Cent, "Go Shawty, it's your birthday." And then I would do a freestyle, and I'd use their name, and I'd use the place, and I just input stuff. It became like a party trick sometimes, where I would just have a bunch of stuff on the table somewhere, and I would just pick up the item and start rapping. And that was like practice for us, because like I said, all my homies were DJs. My homies would like leave their turntables and stuff. So like it was nonstop. Music was in my life. So I thought this is what I want to do. But then fast forward, and then it's like in the music industry, you really got to know people. Like you have to know somebody to get in the studio. You got unless you're doing your own studio time. But back then, I was too broke. I couldn't just buy stuff. So here I am, like this. I shit you not. My first big homie who was a producer was a tweaker. He would he would chase the dragon, burn on the fucking foil and chase that shit with a straw. And it was DJ Kool-Aid. Shout out to DJ Kool-Aid, man. I remember one time I saw him on a flyer. It was a DUI class. He like did something with the drunk driving and shit. But yeah, man, that fool would always let us do like our little hip hop stuff. We make mixtapes. Me and my cousin Rudy. My cousin Rudy was older. He's like 4 years older than me. So he really put me up on game as far as like the hip hop scene and stuff.
How many mixtapes did you put out?
Bro.
So can someone find a mixtape, or do you keep it and you post it? Like,
Low key, we had so many mixtapes, but when my cousin was with this chick, fucking Sarah, dude, they all were there. Like they were all at her house. And then when they broke up, like we literally tried to think of a way we could break in and steal back the tapes. So there are tapes out there. And I mean, there's a lot of tapes of like shitty ass raps. They exist. What's sad though is when I hear people use my rhymes. And like that was a shitty rhyme that I knew I wrote.
I was gonna ask you, do you have a line that you're proud of?
What line would I always go to, man? Shit. Back in the day, it was all about
Did you write a lot? Did you try to like? Were you more of a lyricist, or were you like trap music, or?
I was a lyricist because
Or
Nas,
all love songs, all
Nas,
baby girl songs.
Nas was my favorite rapper, so I was lyrical, you know. And it wasn't just one rap or something. I'd say it would be like concepts. It'd be like, you know, like for example, how Nas did the car the gun when he shoots, and he talks about how that goes, and he goes into the whole backwards way of it.
Yeah. That's dope.
That was
That's
the
a
kind of
dope-ass
shit
song.
that like intrigued me, you know. So I would try to like bite that shit, but do it about like going to the swap meet and make it something stupid, and just kind of break it down in that
Really,
way.
you could do that with any rap song.
Yeah.
You just do it backwards because it rhymes anyways.
Yeah. It's just another form of expression, and that's really what it was all about. You know, it's just me expressing myself because I had so much to say, but no one to fucking listen. So I'd write it down or I'd spit it in a fucking rhyme, and it get recorded. But when it came to the battle rap, it was more like me finding my identity because it was just machismo shit. You know, like mano a mano. And the first rap battle contest was in Chico that I entered, and it was like fucking 1,000 white dudes and like 3 black guys. Yeah, and I made the quarterfinals. Yeah, I made the quarterfinals, so I made it through like a few rounds. There's a white dude, and I shit you not, he had a Buffalo's Bills jersey and a Padres hat. So I just went off on him, like the boy, I love losing Super Bowls, and you know he represents losers. And it was just fun, man. Like I didn't even know nobody. I didn't realize like you had to bring a crowd to win those type of things. So for me to even advance that far, like I knew it was pretty dope because I didn't know anyone in that industry, in that scene back then.
Is the struggle to be an MC similar to the struggle of being a stand-up comic?
Absolutely.
What are some of those similarities?
So, for one, finding your voice, finding,
True,
you know,
yeah.
who you are. That was the first thing for the first year I really wanted to focus on as a comedian. Because transitioning from hip hop, you know, stage presence wasn't the problem. I could always go on stage and I felt comfortable.
You grab your dick. You've been doing
Yeah,
that for a while.
Exactly. So I make myself at home on stage. But to transition to rap funny to comedic funny and timing, that's where I was really working on it. Because I was just a storyteller at first. I would just go up there and ramble and then have a punchline at the end. I didn't know what the fuck a tag was. I didn't know how to like, you know, a premise. I would just go. But then it was like the similarity was really like finding my voice, finding who I am, and a better way to like channel that, you know. And my presence would just, when in doubt, I could just fall back on entertaining. Like I may not even be funny sometimes in the beginning, but I could just entertain you, and you would be like walking away thinking, "Damn, that dude was freaking funny," even though I didn't say anything really funny, but I was just talking about funny topics, you know. So that was really the similarities really came in. And man, it was just like coming to Jesus when I realized like how to formulate jokes. You know, it's like the whole world opened up. Like it felt like I could put any topic or any situation in this meat grinder of making jokes, and it would come out like ground beef. You know, perfectly ground joke right there. Yeah.
Where do you see comedy going for you? You say because you know you just recently started, kind of pushing forward full time with it. In the next year, do you have any plans as far as jumping on shows out of town, starting your own YouTube channel, your own TikTok?
Yeah, I definitely want to. This year, I'm really focusing more on my social presence. Excuse me. I don't have a YouTube as of yet, but I do have a TikTok. So the TikTok's really showing me a little bit of how that goes. But the YouTube will allow me to do different things, I think, too. So I definitely want to do that and like kind of build like a portfolio of like all my good stuff so
Yeah.
I can start shopping myself to booking agents, talent agents. But I don't really want to go like commercial and just like get a fucking an agency. I don't think I'm worth that yet. But I want to learn the ins and outs myself. Like eventually I'll pass it on to somebody to handle the business side, but I want to know the ins and outs of it first,
Yeah.
you know? And then as far as touring, that's like the goal. Like I hear that one of the podcasts when Tom Segura was on and he was talking about how like this was the busiest year he did. And he did 185 dates out of 365 days a year. And I'm just thinking like, man, that to me, some people may think that's horrible, but to me that's like a dream come true. You know, I got a 20-year-old daughter, so I don't have to be home all the time. I'm not tied down to a relationship. So I can really fully indulge into this whole comedy scene. And that's where I'm at now is I just want to push to where I can start being a regular touring comic. I see these guys with posting their tour dates and everything, and that's ambitious right there for me. You know, and that's goals that I like seeing guys doing that because it lets me know that it's possible. And I got a good buddy of mine in LA, Renee Vaca, who's a great up and coming comic. He's got millions of views on his TikTok. And I don't even know he's got a YouTube or not. So that lets me know like where things are at kind of in a sense. Like YouTube used to be huge, but I know there's still a platform that needs to be addressed too. But I see people using this TikTok. Like how many comics you see in comedy clubs that are just TikTok guys learning to be comics? It's crazy.
I think I've seen kind of both sides of it. I've seen some of the older people incorporate it and get more notoriety. Bobby Lee's one of the most, like, I could say, everybody loved the dude. Who doesn't know who the motherfucker was? But I wouldn't tell you that I knew what he was up to at any time. But once he started doing the podcast, and I just was like,
Yeah.
oh, consuming it, and then, and I'm not gonna lie, if that motherfucker jumps on another podcast, I'll fucking watch that shit too.
Yeah.
I have my podcast that I like to watch and I learn a little bit about them. But I definitely, Bobby Lee's one of those people who had he not tried to get a social media presence, I don't know where the fuck that fool be at. I mean, he talks about how he was struggling, bro. That he was just kind of accepting that he was not gonna be well off as a comic, and wasn't liked. He was all depressed and shit. And now, like, fools on top of the world, they're talking about he's banking, bro. He's banking money like a motherfucker, just doing his shit. And he's doing what he always did. He's not doing nothing different. He's not trying to be more. If anything, he's trying to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, you open up more doors when those new avenues and the social media platforms, by far.
And I have seen the side that you're talking about of people marketing their TikToks about their comedy and getting those bits in there. And those are nice because they're nice and edited, right? It's just your 5 seconds of attention, or your 15, 20 second, maybe a minute of your attention. That's cool. But give that fucker 15 minutes and see how many ums and dead air there is, But
Yeah.
and they get better. Everybody gets better if you keep trying. That's all it really is. So I think some people just have a distinct sense of humor that is only funny to certain people, whereas like it's really funny. But there's definitely those people who like you're like, what? Like, what the fuck?
I've been in comedy clubs and the dude that's had like millions of followers and shit, and he just fucking sucked. And I get he can bring people in the door because the whole process of bringer shows and all that stuff, which I get. There's that side, but I think you really should dedicate yourself to being a comedian, not just like a figure. Being a figure or a persona is only going to carry you so far, but you gotta really put in that work and time. And I see people doing it. I see a lot of guys that are just comedics on TikToks, but then they actually put in that work. I never thought Jamie Kennedy was a stand-up comedian. Like,
really?
Yeah, like when I was like, he was a movie guy. And then one day it's like, oh yeah, he's doing stand-up comedy, which kind of made sense. But then when I saw him perform, like, it's a different type of comedy. Like, he's really an entertainer. Yeah, you can go up there and tell jokes, but you can
Just
also
high energy or what?
Yeah. And then interaction with the crowd. It was a totally different style, but it was hitting. And I just saw like, okay, there's different ways of doing this, You don't just have to just be the dry humor or this and that. There's so many different variations of comedy, and that's what the beautiful thing is about. Like, I can create this new thing and it doesn't have to just be pigeonholed to like one category. Like there's so many different areas I could hit.
Where do you? Here, I think I got a better call. I was gonna ask you where you like get your inspiration from, but um, yeah, let's start with that. Yeah, yeah. Where do you get your inspiration for your comedy?
Inspiration for my comedy would be, well, growing up in Living Color. That's where it all started. That's where like I would beg my mom to let me stay up. You know, I think it was like 9 is when it started. So 8 o'clock was my bedtime when I was little. But I just loved staying till like 10:30, I think, how long the show went. And it was just like an eye opener for me. When I saw Jim Carrey doing fucking Fire Marshal Bill, Vera DeMilo, you know, praise the Lord, the pot's been lifted. Like all these different characters. I didn't know about Saturday Night Live back then. I didn't know about Johnny Carson, Tonight Show. Like that wasn't prevalent to my world. But seeing Damon Wayans and Keenan Ivory Wayans and all these guys, Handyman, like all these characters, it showed me what comedy is in my eyes. You know, and all these like personas and these big freaking people energies coming through the fucking TV. I would reenact these guys. I can impersonate literally almost every character on that damn show. Wanda, I used to do that shit to the fools and they get mad. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Oh my goodness. And fools be like, stop that shit, fool. I'd be like at a house party doing that shit, just fucking with guys. Oh man. But
I had this next question. I know. So where you get your inspiration from, and then also, do you do research when it comes to your comedy? Like whether it be the subject or a style of comedy, maybe even like writing. I buy comedy books,
mm-hmm.
and I'll skim them, and I'll see kind of like the concept of trying to come up with ideas. You know, one of my favorites is like word association. So if you have a joke already, and then you just kind of want to fluff it or extend it to like you know those 3 parts or something, however you want to do your little formulas that people try to give you and shit. I think like 3s are what people like. But anyways, you can do that. You can just kind of oh fuck, I had a brain fart, fool. Was I talking? What was I saying?
Yeah, as developing your style and
yeah. So like, do you what kind of research have you done?
As far as research goes, I watch a lot of interviews when they talk about like how they started or their train of thought when they do it. As far as reading books, I'm not a heavy reader, bro. I'm really not. I've tried to read stuff, but you know, really, it's just trial by error is more so me than anything. And I kind of like coming in fresh, not knowing everything. Like when I found out what a tag was, or like a little pre-joke before the main punchline. Little tidbit jokes is what I was calling them at the time. I didn't know what a tag was. But now I analyze comedian stand-up. So like when I watch stand-up now, like I'm breaking it down like film, like it's film class, you know? So that's where I really learn like, okay, like Andrew Schultz, for example, I call him like the king of tags. He gets it to a point where you don't even know where the main punchline is. There's all these jokes filtered in and it's like, pick one. I got so many for you. Do you think is the main joke? There really isn't a main joke in a lot of his stuff. It's just like this whole huge bit of roaring and laughter up.
I saw his last special.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about buying it, and I was like, you know what? It's going to have to go out at some point somewhere. So I didn't buy it. And then it came out on YouTube for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched it. I'm glad I didn't buy it. I mean, it wasn't bad. I'm not saying it wasn't funny. I'm just saying the marketing for it was fucking way like high expectation for what I ended up seeing.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. The
that's
good
their job.
only
like,
the good
now
bits.
I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm definitely never buying any of his shit. Like I know not to buy his shit, and I can just wait and see what happens here. Wait for it to be on Netflix like 5 years later.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen. Cat Williams did a special.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. He put it on like it was like, I think it was like all black kind of like Showtime or something. It was like their own like channel network or something. But I know it was like geared towards the black community because I remember that was some of the statements that he was saying, that he wanted his community to see it first or have it first or have access to it first, and then he would put it out to everybody. Couldn't tell you what the name of it is anymore. I forgot already, and couldn't tell you if it was good. I haven't never seen it. I haven't even heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah. I will say the thing that I liked about Andrew was a different style of putting it out, where it was pay-per-view based, how he did it like that. I mean, it does take away from the Netflix and the Amazon stranglehold. I'm sorry, but there's so many specials now on all these different platforms. Like, you can't keep up. But the way he did it, where it's separate from everything, it kind of added a little extra buzz to it. So I think that really helped as far as getting that movement and those numbers up for him.
Have you pulled uh, jokes or again trying to build your comedy? You said you've watched, you recall the shows you watched growing up, and then you mentioned the second part. So have you ever looked outside of comedy to try to? I'll give you an example. So um, there was a time when I was doing shows with Lil G, and every once in a while, I try to pick his brain about a joke, or he tell me my joke suck or some shit. Like, it's just something like just to like get like work on this part or something, or sometimes he would tell me like about doing research, and so sometimes we would just hanging out talking about either trying to get to a gig, are we gonna go on a plane, are we gonna do this, are we gonna go by train, the Amtrak, Greyhound, whatever, trying to figure out the numbers, the dates, my schedule, and I'm like, we're just doing everything, but we would have like YouTube going in the background. And so one day we were talking about a certain joke, and he's like, "You ever try to be like more animated? Like to really, there's more to the joke than just the lines and the timing. There's also your body language." And I'm, what's the word? Not parenthesizing his. I'm shortening what he said, right?
Emphasizing.
Emphasizing. Yeah. There you go. And so he talked about that, and so I was just like, all right, yeah, I can see what you're saying. He's like, let me show you a couple comedians, So he put on YouTube a couple comedians. And he's like, watch them. And so I remember, and I can't remember the guy's name, bro, but he was this kind of like lanky comedian, kind of really tall. But he starts telling his joke about eating pussy. But the way he's talking about eating pussy is he's comparing it to a cat playing with its prey, So he starts out where he's like telling these other random jokes, right? And then he leads up to that, and then he starts like walking like a cat, like stalking and working its way up. And then there's like a chair, and the top of the chair is kind of what he's saying is the prey or the pussy, right? And so he works his way up, and then he gets to it, and he goes pop pop pop. But the way he did it, when it's over, and G was like, okay, what did you see here? What did you see? And I was like, well, he told a joke about eating pussy, and he compared it to this, and he's like, but what did you think about it? And he was like, I was like, that motherfucker looked like a cat. Like when he was acting like a cat, I was like, motherfucker look like a cat.
Yeah.
He didn't have no looks, whiskers and shit. No, he was, the way he was moving his body, and he looked over to like the camera and the angle, and then he just waited, and he's just the personality of a cat, like, and he goes, you think he just did that shit? That motherfucker sat there and watched his cat for a minute, bro, and thought about that shit. And so he's like, think about that and put it into your comedy. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we would do that with like different stuff. So if I had like a random questions about like different styles of, like a callback or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if I had like talk like, I've noticed people do this, and he would one thing that I after he started, I wasn't like I was always like learning stuff from him, but I definitely was always picking his brain about certain stuff. One of the things, oh fuck, I'm so excited to say that I fucking spaced out what I was trying to say. Oh, another thing. So when we would do these shows, right? Obviously, he has like a higher notoriety, right? So these are like a little bit more known comics from, and so I'm seeing people that I used to see on Comic View and shit, just fucking in the green room, just like, who the fuck you? Kind of not nobody was ever rude to me, but people always kind of like give you like side eye and be like, who the fuck is this guy, And then I'd just be doing my thing, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, oh, he's with G, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, hey, what's up, what's your name? I'm like, Iceberg. I was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. You with G? Yeah, all right, yeah, where's he at? I was like, I think he went out to the back. He's talking to somebody. He's like, all right, cool. Tell him I say hi, and I'm Melanie, or I'm blah blah blah, or I'm so and so. It's like, okay, nice to meet you. But I knew who the fuck they were, bro, and I was like, fucking like, oh,
on the inside, try not to be a fanboy.
Yeah. And she's cool with me, and he's cool with
that
me.
Is the hardest thing.
One of my proudest ones, which people are such fucking assholes sometimes. They can try to pump you up about shit. So who knows if they're true and shit, you know? Especially when you're having a good time, people say random shit. So one time, me and G, we had a show in Vegas, and we fucking, I think it was like last minute. We found like tickets for like $90 round trip. So we jump, bro. We jump in Burbank. We go to Vegas. We go to do a show, and before the show, we go to one of his friends' businesses. He has like a clothing store where, like, if you have a brand, you just send him your clothes and he'll sell it, and then they work out the proportions or whatever, right? And so we go to check out the store, and it's Red Grant, whom I've seen on Comic View all the time, is like fucking iconic Gap, and like the all that shit. Like, I remember this guy. Fool, my favorite joke of his was the one that was on Cat Williams special, when it's him, and I think is it Melanie Camacho or something. But they're he's telling his joke, and he pinches the sheets with his butt cheeks.
Yeah.
And he fucking walks and shit. Oh, fool, I remember that shit was so fucking goofy. But anyways, I walk in, and that fool is not going like he's on his TV talking to Snoop Dogg, like, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna beat you," blah blah, talking back and forth to each other. Like, "Oh, what was that? This and that." And then he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He's like, "Oh, this is Iceberg, blah blah. This is Red, blah blah." And I'm listening to Snoop Dogg play this fool and shit. I'm like, this is fucking nuts, man. Like, where the fuck am I, bro? Like, this is fucking crazy. And then all of a sudden, like, Red's just like, "Take a seat," telling me to be comfortable in his place. And I'm just like, this is fucking crazy, bro. But I'm just gonna play it cool. And he's like, "Hey, man, you don't have to stay in the front. You just want to go in the back. Just go in the back and chill." I was like, "Am I that ugly or some shit?" Like, you're fucking up my business. We'll get the fuck in the back. And so, like, I go to the back, and there's this dude, already looks cool, for like, he's just chilling in the back. He got gold and fucking crazy gold shades and shit, and he's just minding his own business and shit. He's just like doing something. I go back there, and obviously I know he's somebody who doesn't want to. I don't need to waste his time, right? He's on his phone. He's doing shit. He's making calls and shit. So I'm like, I'm not gonna be over here trying to chit chat with some fool. Right. And so I just sit there. I'm chilling. I'm on my phone. I'm thinking about the show, what jokes I'm gonna do, if my timing is right. And then the dude didn't really say anything to me, like, he was just chilling. And then I think this girl walked by. He told her what to do. And then she said something, and then we all got into like a conversation about what was going on. She was like cleaning, and she didn't want to clean. He was talking shit. We all started bagging on her and shit. We just bullshitted for a little bit, and then fucking excused myself, and I left. I went for a walk and shit. And then when I came back, Lil G was like, "Hey, that fool said he liked you, man. He said you're a cool dude." I was like, it was just like a short, bullshit and shit. And then like that fool was like, "He said you were cool, bro." I was like, I didn't really do anything, I just said fucking just minding my own business. And he's like, "Yeah, he liked that shit. He liked that you went in there trying to put a fucking CD in his face and shit. You were just fucking bagging on the girl, just chilling, mind your own business. You weren't fucking trying to sell yourself, trying to fucking dick ride and shit,
Yeah.
He's like, people don't like that shit, man."
Nah.
And I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, I'm mostly just shy, I say like 90% of it is just like I don't like bothering people when they look busy and shit. Because even if I'm bored, I'm not gonna like fucking take your time.
Interject and shit. Yeah.
Anyways, I went on a tangent. I forgot what the point of it was. It was just meeting your idols, and then also there was something to it, but I forgot what the fuck.
Yeah, like when like fanboying out, man. That's like the hardest thing not to do, because like I have so much fucking admiration for these people, and I idolize some of the stuff that they do, and they're like, in our heads they're huge, so then you're sitting in the green with them, and you're just like, that awkward moment, like, should I say something? And your inner side's like, don't say shit, just be fucking cool, and then they talk to you like, "Oh my god, he's talking to me, and I just like, I don't know, for me, I'm always gonna be myself. Whether you like it or not, that's on you. So I'm never going to be something I'm not. But usually when I start talking to people, like, real recognize it's real, and that's what I really take from like my interactions with all these big guys. They're just regular people,
Yeah.
They started somewhere too, and there may be a day one time where I walk in a room and somebody's going to fucking lose their shit. And you know what? Low key, that'll be kind of dope.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of them are pretty humble. I think people get the reputation that like comics are all fucked up, or like people with money, or people who came up are all dicks and shit. I would say there are some people who just kind of bitter and shit, and then like you kind of deal with them. But for the most part, everybody's trying to have a good time, trying to hang out.
Yeah, that's what it's all
Everybody got
about.
their own little cliques and things that they enjoy. I was going to talk to you about getting inspiration. So I do sometimes consult with other comedians, right? They kind of give you tips. Um, and so I think I was kind of where I went on tangent too. One of the observations that I made when I was going to these shows was that a lot of the black comedians would do a sound, and so and that could be kind of skewed because I was doing mostly comedy, black comedy shows and shit. So, but one thing I noticed about all the comics was that they were all doing like a bit where somehow there was a sound repeating, right? Whether it be like, there's something bumping into something, something getting smacked, like some type of action sound that just kind of when it repeats itself gets its own little flow.
Yes.
And people like almost you don't even have to tell a joke anymore. If you just make that sound,
They're dying.
they're dying, bro.
You're exactly right. And you know what? I have a bit just like that. It's the smoke alarm bit that I do. And it talks about how, like, one of my biggest bits is my Toxica bit. And it goes into so many different avenues. Like, I can interchange it in all these different ways or different formats that I use. But one part I do is the fire alarm. How when you go to a chick's house or you're on a Zoom call and you got these toxic people that can just block out the sound of the chirp. And we've all seen it, like you're talking to somebody, you go to somebody's house, and you just hear this chirp, chirp. And when I start doing that, by the third time, the fucking crowd is dying. Like, I'm not even saying anything. I'm just doing the chirp. Yeah, you're right. It's crazy.
Yeah, people just it's just one of those things that you learn. I couldn't tell you the science behind it or what the fuck, it's just something that I've observed. It's like the callback, it's just something that you observe that when this thing happens, it just brings something out of like, oh, like the callback. The callback is a classic of like, oh, like it just adds on to what you've heard before and stuff. It's just, yeah.
What's crazy is, like, I haven't done a lot of research as far as that goes, but people have told me, like, some of my sets and stuff have a lot of that already attributed, and it's just naturally formed. But I mean, it's part of creation, and you can tell. Maybe it's just from my experience of seeing people perform. Like, I just attributed what they and kind of metamorphosed into my own style. But yeah, man, there's all these different techniques that I don't even know half of them. But then my home be like, "Did you know you did this?" And I'm like, "No, I have no fucking idea." But I knew that fucking worked and it made sense. So that's cool.
One thing I learned too was about the different crowds. As much as people don't want to be segregated, there's definitely a segregation in comedy where there's clubs that are like multiracial. There's clubs that are known for black comics, and so
or heavy white Trump
or
supporters,
just straight up white, just because of like the state or the city, just straight up white redneck stuff or whatever the situation may be. But one thing I learned is that the rhythm that you have is different. In like a multicultural kind of situation, I think it's more just slow is okay, steady. Kind of these even some of the racial jokes are okay, but when you go to a black comedy place, black comedy club, it's faster, bro. If you sit there and try to tell a story, no, there has to be like tags and a punchline, probably like every second, every sentence, just boom 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 boom.
Smaller
boom.
attention spans.
There's something. If the joke isn't the words you're saying, the joke is the fucking face you're making or the fucking expression that you're making or the sound that you're making. Like you're hitting them with something.
Yeah.
There's no build up to a joke, or it's rare. I would say it's more rare.
I always tell my buddies that are up and coming, like, the first thing that I wanted to do that I learned was when you get on stage, you got to earn their trust quickly. Because it don't take long for them to say, all right, I'm not even fucking involved. They doing other shit. So that first part, when you get going, you really got to win the crowd over. It's that trust thing. It's just like when you're telling, like, you're giving a speech or something. You just want to set the premise and get going. But you can't, like you said, you can't wait around for it. It's got to be pretty rapid. And then you can kind of slow down a little bit, but it's got to have, like, highs and lows, though, too. I like it, like, when I think of my buddies when they would rap and they'd have, like, a monotone voice and it all sounds the same. Like, I can't stand that shit. But like you said, you accent certain words, you get more animated. Then it adds more to it.
Cut the fat.
Yeah, and that's really like you said. When those live crowds, I'm trying to be as animated as possible. I'm all over the damn place. You know, even on my one of my toxic parts of my bit, I do this stabbing of the flat screen TV. I do like I jump down and I'm like the girl on top of me. Who the fuck is Sarah? Like all these movements that I do, it really brings the crowd to fucking erupt, man. Yeah.
A lot of the why I did the books was because of those conversations with G, and where I was kind of like, there's shortcuts in this shit. Not shortcuts to success, I would say, but definitely shortcuts in um, finding out your voice. Like not just your voice of like the style of comedy you want, but your voice and how you write your jokes, and you know how you jump on a topic.
Definitely.
That really got my mind going about it, and so I was like, well, I like reading, so let me find a book, right? So I fucking I bought one book by, I think it was Pete Garrett or Jarrett, I can't remember right here, but he had this thing where he like if you had a joke, and let's say your punchline was, you know, brick to the face or some shit, you know, then he would want you to write down like brick, and then just like everything you associate with the word brick, you know, so
Yes.
red, chalky, dry, solid, you know, just write all that shit. And then in doing that, you're not gonna write a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're what's gonna happen is that it'll connect a dot to another joke, or you can like have another joke where you're just like, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, change the name or change the like, you know, and just kind of bring it into this other joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely helps with that. And also if you just want to make some shit up and just like, oh yeah, you know, it would be fucking funny if like this, you know, whatever the situation may be. But I went so far on some of the, not just the writing part, and by no means am I like the greatest fucking comedian writing here, right? But I do write my jokes, and I'm not full time. Like I haven't done comedy in, I want to say like 3 years. You know, I've done shows. I've traveled and done shows, but I haven't like sat at a comedy club and go, I think this is funny and bomb, and then go, well, fuck them. You know, I'm gonna fix it. So you listen to the audio and go like, okay, fuck, okay, yeah, I can see where I lost them here. It was too fat. You know, that wasn't even necessary. I don't know why the fuck I even said that part. Like I'm gonna start taking that. I'm gonna take that part out. And then even when you go up to say it the next time, you get to that point, and you're like, okay, I remember that part sucked. I'm gonna jump to the next part. But so that was writing. I started getting into trying to be more animated. So I would look up that comedian, but I can't remember his fucking name right now. It's like Johnson. I can't remember, something Johnson. But anyways, when it got to being animated, I started thinking a little bit out the box, and I was like, who's animated? Like who's anime? Who talks without words, right? One day I told a joke when I was doing a comedy show. I'm gonna rant a little bit. I was doing a joke when I was doing a pussy juice sound when I was fingering this girl, and I just did that. And I was trying to come up with doing the sounds right. So I was trying to do that. What I was telling you, trying to find a joke where I could make that sound the bit. And so I was like, how long could I do that? You know, kind of like what's his name, the Andy Kaufman.
Okay.
Who would just do random shit, you know, read a book. Just read a book and see how long people would stay in the crowd and listen to that shit. And so I was like, how long could I finger bang, you know, or finger fuck this stool? How long can I finger fuck this stool before like either I get the light or people just start like, it's not funny, you know, or will it be funny? You know, who knows? It's funny to me.
Yeah.
And I'll do the sounds a little bit different. I'll do different angles and change the sounds, whatever, you know. I was just trying to come up with that shit. And so I was like thinking, how funny can I make it without saying any words?
Gotcha.
So then I started thinking like, who's animated and don't use words? Fucking mimes, bro. So I started watching mimes, and it wasn't really what I was looking for. I was like, it's like that's like, you know, rope in a box and shit. I was like, I'm not okay. Like, watched a couple of it. I was like, nah, that still isn't what I'm looking for. But it's I'm getting there. And so then I looked up this guy. I started looking at clowns, right? So in my search, I started going into like the history of clowns.
Oh shit.
You know, and so like then going back into like the fucking
Fools.
all that shit, right? And it's going back
gestures.
about all that shit and like stand up comedy. And then it goes into like it becomes stand up comedy, blah blah. But anyways, I run into this guy. He's a Russian clown. His name is Slav. Oh fuck, I'm so bad with names. Something Slav. But he fucking, his whole thing is miming, but he's dressed as a clown and he does shit with like coats and music and like the breeze of like the snow coming in. He puts on, but it's all facial expressions, bro. There's no fucking words, but you can
Benny
watch
Hill.
that shit. You can watch that shit and
Yeah.
just be like, oh my god. So I was like, I'd watch him, bro. I watch all his YouTube shit. I listened to him talk, and when you listen to talk to him, I thought he was gonna be a fool, bro. This guy was like kick back, philosophical, fucking just chilling. He has this like property where he lets his mind go, bro. If you go to his property, like there's a fucking balloon tower and shit, you know, like
Yeah.
just weird shit. He's like an artist as well, I guess.
What was it? Bean. Bean was another one that wouldn't talk,
Right?
and his animated vision was just ridiculous. That took it from Benny Hill.
He was saying stuff without
Saying.
no words.
Yeah, your action by your movements. Yeah, yeah. That's the beautiful thing about comedy. There's so many different variations of it, and you can add a little and attribute a little bit to your shit. You know, your set here and there. You can add. There's so many things you could do with comedy, and that's the thing I like about it. It really is art, because it's like a blank canvas that you're creating. You know, and you're putting all this stuff on there and just seeing what sticks. Sometimes you just throwing shit on the wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah,
Man.
it looks like shit, just whatever. Sell it to somebody. For $5.
Yep, somebody will-
sell it to someone for $5 and shit.
Somebody will like it. Fuck yeah, dog.
Um,
Fuck.